2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You could turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
All right. What's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. It's the C3 Panthers post-game show brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. It was a slaughter today in Charlotte. New Orleans Saints defeated the Carolina Panthers 42-10. And I have to officially say this, pour one out for these homies, because this team is dead. Good Lord. And I am glad it is finally over. That game felt so long. And I'm here to talk about it and to chop up some of these latest news and opinions here. Oh, who's playing in the background? It's one of the cat calls going. I'm here with my homeboys. Cody Lashney was at the game. How did you withstand that beatdown?
Oh, man. You said this was a long game. How about this has been a long season? Oh, man, it just seems like I said to you just now, whatever team we play executes their plan to perfection, no matter what that plan is. I'm happy the 2019 season is over. I'm ready to start looking to the draft and free agency and, what the future of the Carolina Panthers holds. And I'm going to do it with you guys, my boys, on the best Panther podcast on YouTube. And it turns out we just happen to have the most lit Panther fan base in our YouTube chat. Christina Aguirre, John Kitco Barrera, Sarah Taylor, Richards Outdoors World, Tim Stellings, Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. For our last post game of the season, let's roll.
I'm glad we can finally put a nail in this coffin because we're pushing the show back to Thursday because of New Year's Eve, but getting back on our regular Tuesday episodes on the C3 Panthers podcast, we'll be able to look forward now instead of having to deal with whatever this was over the past 17 weeks now. It's been a tough road. We're here to close it all out. We've also got CK in the house. How you doing, CK? Or maybe
living the dream, man.
No, there he is.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm just trying to get back in and settled. But man, obviously been better, but not what we hoped for as far as a competitive game. But everything we wanted to have happened. Beyond a win, Christian McCaffrey hit his numbers, and we got the loss. So, and I think the Dolphins losing helps our draft pick, or winning helps our draft pick actually. So, I could be wrong.
Yeah. So there are some things to be excited about. Brian Burns, one of those. Christian McCaffrey hitting 1,000. He got his record. Stat Daddy, how you doing, man? 8 straight losses. There's a stat you didn't want to have to hear.
That is a stat, especially 8 straight losses when you finish with 11 altogether. That means you started the season pretty well. 5-3 going in the beginning of every first half and 0-8 in the last. But it's a weird day, man. It's a day where I saw Greg Olson almost cry, but I think the cameraman sensed it was coming and they cut away real quick.
You were exactly right about that.
It definitely felt like the last one.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I'm gonna hate to say goodbye to him, but it's the business. It's the way it is. So.
All right. Well, we want to encourage everybody to be a part of the show by calling into the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. It's time to take a seat on the C3 couch. We're going to get through this together. And go ahead and subscribe, smash the thumbs up button, and don't forget to check us out. Usually Tuesday nights at 9 p.m., but this week, because of New Year's, we will be on Thursday night. Guys, let's go ahead and get into the show. Cody, you were there. You saw it happen. You asked us, was it as bad on TV as it was there? I can't imagine it being worse than being there. That must have been just... They put up 35 points. I thought the Saints were not worried about the Packers winning or losing. I thought that they were trying to make it into like a BCS bowl or something. Remember when they having to run the score up helps you in college? That's what I felt like that first half was like. Cody, how long was that first half in the stadium? How quiet was it? What was the atmosphere like at this game?
No, so I'm glad that you asked that because, for a team that's playing for nothing, that doesn't have any aspects of being anything good this year, it was a really respectable crowd. And I felt like there was a good attendance there. Fans were loud and engaged and happy to be there. And I feel like Panther fans at this point have kind of accepted that you have to find something to cheer for, even if there's nothing to cheer for. So everybody's doing their best to be happy and, celebrate and cheer and be loud when the defense is on the field. And I feel like for the most part we did that. So a little bit of context about my experience. I'm at the game with my brother, who is a diehard New Orleans Saints fan. So, he's having fun, and I'm having fun too. But, obviously his team is kicking my team's ass. A day after LSU runs up Oklahoma, and he's also a diehard LSU fan. So all I'm hearing about this entire weekend is how great Louisiana football is. But you know what, man? I was happy to be there. If this is indeed Greg Olson's final hurrah with the Carolina Panthers, I'm honored to say I was at this game. I'm honored to say I was at the game where Christian McCaffrey got 1,000. We definitely have some things to be proud of when you put it in perspective.
Christian McCaffrey getting 1,000 makes the third player in all-time history, Roger Craig as well as Marshall Faulk. So that is heck of an accomplishment. Cody, how's your house going to be when it comes time for Clemson LSU?
Oh, dude, you have no idea. It's going to get legit bad over here. I'm not even joking. It's going to be a war zone because we both like to talk shit. And not just a little bit of shit, but a lot of shit. And both of our teams are playing in the national championship. The Tigers from Death Valley versus the Tigers from Death Valley. So we got what we wanted. This is what we wanted to start the college football season. So it's going to be tough. But the Panthers-Saints rivalry between us has kind of prepared me for this day. So we'll see how it goes.
Greg Olson, if it is his final game, he finished today with 2 catches, 12 yards. This was a stat. Max Henson, I've got this tweet up, guys. Max Henson from the Panthers said, if Greg Olson has played his last game, here are his ranked of all time among tight ends. 5th with 8,444 receiving yards, 5th with 718 receptions, and 8th with 59 receiving TDs. And that's with 2 years injured in the back end of his career. And really not being able to play with Cam over the last 2 years at the same time, or 3 years in a way. Cam and Greg were sensational together. I love how much, I think for me, the biggest defense of Cam Newton has always been how his teammates talk about him, particularly Greg Olson. There has always been a special reverence for Cam Newton or appreciation for Cam Newton from Greg Olson, and he continued it this week when he said that, when Cam and him were together, there wasn't anybody better. You gotta like that. That does sound like a guy waxing nostalgic, though, a little, maybe thinking about the end of his career. Do you think that Greg Olson hangs it up, guys?
I think he does. I think you don't. I think you don't see the emotion you saw from him at the end of the game without him knowing it's his last game.
But is that not it kind of reminded me of the Brett Favre moment, though. Right. When everybody else outside of Brett Favre thought it was their last game, like his last game. So they gave him this big ovation and everything. And, as a player like that, you kind of feel like you're being forced into retirement for that. And if you're not quite ready, you don't want to go out like this, right? I mean, if I had to guess, there's one reason Greg Olson continues to play, and that is because he does not want his legacy to end with a team this bad, right? I think he needs to be able to prove. I could see that being a situation where he wants to come back, especially if they bring Cam back, because if nothing else but a last hurrah, to say he gave everything he could, and he still wasn't able to pull it out to get to the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl, I should say. I don't know. I think it is his last game. I think that Monday Night Football gig is going to be calling his name, and that's tough to pass up. He's going to be making a lot more money doing that than he would be sticking around with us.
Any chance you see Greg Olson wearing a different jersey other than the Carolina Panthers?
That it depends on if he gets cut and he really thinks he has some time. We thought Khalil was done. Unfortunately.
Well, Khalil just took that was a money grab. Greg Olson, I don't know how, but he could go and play with a team. He played with He played with the Bears, before, so it's not like him finishing in a Carolina Panthers jersey is like the most important thing in his mind, I would think.
I think it is, because of this whole situation with his kids. I think he's sewn to Carolina for the rest of his life. I really do. I don't know if you've read up on any of that stuff with his kids, and I don't want to blast all his. I mean, it's out there, it's information, but he had doctors here in North Carolina that helped save his children's life, and he's forever grateful for that. And I think he always wants to be known as a Panther or in Carolina from now on.
And listen, I hate to kind of frame it this way, but I have to, man. This is the second year in a row that we're ending our season lamenting the loss of some of the greatest Panther players that we've ever had. Last year it was Julius Peppers, Thomas Davis, Ryan Khalil, and sending them out on a sour note on a sorry football team. And now we're doing the same thing for Greg Olson, and I hate it, man. I absolutely hate it. These guys deserve so much more. But to that point, man, I just think that even if Cam Newton comes back, that would obviously be the biggest motivator for Greg Olson to return to the football team next year. But at the same time, man, it's like, how much better? Like, okay, so we have to have a brand new coaching staff. We're going to have brand new people in our front office. We're going to have a whole new everything. There's going to be a lot of roster turnover. I mean, like, it's one thing if we knew that right now the roster as is was poised to make a run and Cam was going to come back healthy. Well, then, that's one thing, and maybe he would do it. But none of those scenarios are in effect for us. So even if Cam Newton does come back, which I do think he will, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's worth the wear and tear on your body that Greg Olson has put it through. He's done so much for the community. And, why put your head through more trauma when your head is going to be what makes you the paychecks for the rest of your life calling football? So I hate that we have to send him out this way, but it's probably time.
What have the Saints done with what deal have they bargained with the devil to get all of these players all the time now? Like, I mean, they're so deep in the season right now. They haven't had they're getting injured now in their secondary. All of a sudden they get Janoris Jenkins. They got another cat that was playing real well. They got you hear about Antonio Brown.
They worked Antonio Brown too.
Is that the Saints always get players. They always pay players, and somehow they continue to get players. Why? How is this even possible?
Well, because they're a winning football team. I mean, if you're Janoris Jenkins, which, by the way, if you look at why Janoris Jenkins was cut, it's the funniest shit in the world.
It's because he called somebody.
So he said, called somebody I guess I'll just say it, called somebody a retard. And then he refused to apologize for it. So the Giants, Dave Gettleman, mind you, cut him, and now the Saints are
this stream froze. Don't say that.
Mine isn't froze. Mine's still moving. Yeah,
Good.
But hey, listen, they're a good football team, man. Listen, like, we're fans of the Panthers, but most of these players, like, they just want to go to whoever has a good team and whoever's going to pay them. And whoever has a chance of giving them a Super Bowl ring. So,
how about for Janoris Jenkins though to get off the damn Giants and get on a team that ultimately could possibly win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, just start calling people retards. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, what a punishment. I think it has to do with a little bit of market size too. New Orleans is a fun place to be. Big place to be. A lot of money flows through there.
A lot of good food.
A lot of good food.
Man.
All right. Christian McCaffrey had 9 rushing attempts for 26 yards at touchdown. He had 7 catches, 72 yards. He was able to just crest 1,000. I saw someone say it in the chat room that they weren't comfortable with him just sitting at 1,000. Like, you hate if they go and like adjust the record book to that tomorrow. Like, give him a little cushion.
He went back in for one more play and got 5 more yards just to prevent that. So he got 1,005.
Well,
1,005.
He was only like 30-something yards. So they were showing on the screen like where he ranks all time. Dude, McCaffrey is above the Daniel Tomlinson right now, which is just insane on all-purpose yards or for a season. But he was like 30 yards off of Marshall Faulk. So, and they had Reggie Bonifant in at like 9 minutes into the fourth quarter. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, he already set a record today. I don't know if it would have hurt to run him just a little bit more and to maybe get some more, but I don't know.
He set 2 records today, technically.
Yeah.
Let's see. How are the Bobcats doing? The Hornets doing right now?
You can tell you're a basketball fan.
I know. Hold on, I gotta look it up. When are they playing next? Let's see. I was gonna tell you guys if you want to go check out a Hornets game or you want to go to a Carolina Hurricanes game. They lost to the Rangers. Saw that. I think it was last night before. You want to head over to VividSeats.com. Check out the Vivid Seats app. There's a rewards loyalty program where they will hook you up with first-time users. If you use the promo code OVERTIME, up to $100 discount. Vivid Seats, you can get the ticket you want for a price you like. Go to Vivid Seats, sort by event, sort by seat, sort by game. And now you don't have to go see a Carolina Panthers game. Now you could go see something that maybe has some promise, particularly those Carolina Hurricanes. And don't forget to use the promo code OVERTIME. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into cat calls. The number's 252-228-5098. It's a place. Hop on the couch. Let's see what you guys got to say. Make sure I got the volume turned up because I'll never do. See what they got to say today.
C3, it's Theo from Asheville. I just really want to commend you guys for sticking with this team the whole year, and not in the sense of like you believe in them, just like having to cover these guys for an hour and a half, or 2 hours or 3 hours. Oh my Lord, every single game.
It's been brutal.
Sit up there and do that, man. I don't think I could. Oof.
Hey,
painful.
You guys are the
Anyways,
weirdos
I
that
don't really
listen
think
to
there's
us.
too many positives to take away from today's game. Obviously,
I love it. That was fun.
I had a question last week, and y'all kind of took it as like a head coach thing. I'm not really talking about the head coach. I want to wonder. I want to know like what 5 players, if you were a head coach, you had to hang on to. 5 players that you had to keep around for next year. So, I really commend you guys for doing this all year, man, because it has been tough to watch. And, that's really all I got, man. Thank you guys for a great year. And yeah, fuck the Panthers for a horrible year. Keep pounding. The next year's gonna be our year. So they say.
All right.
That's right.
All right, man.
I hear
Keep
you.
pounding. Thanks for the call, Theo in Asheville. Guys, I was thinking about this a little bit. I mean, obviously, we're going to be celebrating Christian McCaffrey as much as we can. And, boy, the Panthers truly are. They knew that that's the only story that really mattered in this final game. But for me, the name that really comes to mind, and I think that, Cody, you're going to like this, is Brian Burns. I feel like we just need to commit at this point to building the defense around him almost. And, okay, Cody, so Brian Burns is the name that comes to mind for me the most. I think he's a guy that you can build an entire defense around.
And if you noticed, at the end of that game, Brian Burns was getting pressures. Brian Burns was doing his damn thing. So he said name 5 players, and I'm going to name a few that might be kind of controversial. Dude, I really like Trey Boston on this football team. Like, to me, it's another one of those examples where, you're only keying in on a player when they're making a bad player. There's a blown coverage. But, dude, I cannot tell you how many times in the past few weeks I've almost seen Trey Boston intercept the football or make a big play and
catch the damn ball, Trey. Trey, catch the ball.
Yeah, really.
Good
Hey, but
God.
that's why he's a defensive back and not a receiver. Because, he doesn't have the greatest hands. But
There ain't no quitting, Trey. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no quitting, Trey. Even when he's having a bad game or a bad couple of plays or whatever, you can still he's playing as hard as he possibly can, even if it's not great all the time.
I'll say it's not great all the time because he got that penalty for playing so hard that that hit after the slide.
They said he said. Did you see he said that there was he got fined over $100,000 by the NFL for this stuff this year?
No, I didn't know that.
Who, Trey Boston?
Yeah. That's what he said.
$100,000?
Yeah, he asked
I think he's
Panthers fans to
exaggerating.
start him a GoFundMe.
Yeah, and did you see Carl Van? Did you see what Carl Van, who's a fan of the C3 podcast?
Didn't he say, like, you get us a win, I guarantee you will be getting it or something like that?
Oh, no, there was he just said, can I get 5 or 6K? Like, that was his, like, Trey Boston asking for 100K, making all this. Carl said, look, can I just get $5,000, yo?
And hey, real quick, before we go forward, in our chat room, Michael Jones is the guy I saw at the stadium, recognized me, and got a picture with me. You can see that picture on my timeline. I see you, Michael. Shout out to you, man. Thank you for the love and for the support, man. Got me all feeling like a celebrity and shit. I ain't nowhere close to that, but thank you, man. But I mean, if I had to pick 5 players to answer Theo's question, obviously Brian Burns. Well, I mean, okay, the players that we've drafted, we know we're going to have for a little while. So I'm going to kind of pick some of those bubble players. I would love to have Gerald McCoy back. I think that we didn't really get to see the best of him. I think we kind of needed to see him and K'Wan Short on the field together. I'll say Trey Boston. I already said that. I'd love to see Trey come back. If Bradbury is willing to come back on a reasonable deal, then I'm not mad at it. I know somewhere Brandon Herbert is cussing up a storm.
He was all upset on Twitter already.
Cussing up a storm. And then I don't know, maybe Eric Reed. I mean, well, he's gonna be on the team for another year anyway, but I'll say him just for shits and giggles. And one more. I don't know, man. Maybe Bruce Irvin for another year if it's for a reasonable deal. But yeah, we have some players that I wouldn't mind coming back and being contributors to the football team.
Thank you, Michael Jones, for the support of the C3 Panthers podcast. You guys can be a part of the show by calling in 252-228-5098. Greg, is there anybody on this offensive line worth keeping? Matt Paradis?
I was gonna say I think Paradis might be the only
penalty
one.
today.
Yeah, but I mean it happens. You get a penalty every once in a while. He's had a pretty decent year. He was our big off-season pickup this year. Really,
we're kind of with him. We're with him for right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that? I wonder how much time Trey Turner still has. I think he's got a lot on that. Anybody that other than the names that Cody said to you, are there any names on Cody's list that are controversial to you? McCoy, Reed. Do we have to redo Reed's deal already? I think
we got like 3 years. Yeah, but that's what
Yeah.
Cody was saying. He's just doing it for shits and giggles.
So, but the 2 years went by fast.
Right.
I think, last year. So he has, I think, 2 years left because he signed a 3-year deal after his first year, which was last year. So he's got 2 more years with us. DJ, well, he's on our team for a while.
Dude, Trey Turner is only 26 years old. That can't be.
Yeah, dude, that's what's crazy about it.
Good reason to keep him.
So
I think more or less what he was asking though was if we were going to clear the entire franchise and you had to keep 5 players, who would you keep? More of a fantasy type deal rather than what we.
So I've been thinking about I like Trey. I'm okay with Trey Boston being on that team. I was thinking one of the things that's problematic with this team right now is that there was no personality to it. Like we need somebody to come in who is like a catalyst of energy, even if it's almost bad. Like we need somebody with a bold, big personality.
We don't have an identity. Yeah, we don't have an identity at all.
And
someone that's looking to slap you across your mouth every play. Just a badass. That's what I think we need.
And so one of the things I think would be a good idea is if you do find a way to bring Gerald McCoy back, is I wouldn't mind just like drafting a defensive tackle at like 10 or whatever we're at, or in the second round.
We're going to end up at 7 probably. It depends on how the Jaguars beat the Colts or not. If the Jaguars beat the Colts, we'll end up at 7. If they lose, we end up at 8.
I think we should get like a big ass guy that can play in a 3-4.
Let me tell you, man. There's if that's what you want, there's a few to be had around this draft. So,
but do you see the logic behind that? Because we've questioned if McCoy is really with the personnel we've had minus KK appropriate for this type of defense. Some people have asked that question. I feel like it's been floated around here. I thought he was going to be more effective in a 3-4 naturally, but he hasn't been able to play the end as much, right? He's been more relegated to playing like a nose.
Who are we talking about?
McCoy.
Yeah, kind of because of personnel. But listen, and I think we've kind of said this on the podcast before. We didn't really know how much value Starlet Tudele brought to the team as a run stopper.
I was thinking that today.
He really. So listen, it's not flashy when you're not the one getting the sacks like everybody else. But dude, when you're that anchor, like you do all the hard work and get no glory. But it is absolutely necessary for you to have that guy that can hold down the middle and let your other players on your defensive line either flow to the running back, rush the passer, and let your linebackers play faster. And I think that's why Luke and Shaq haven't really looked good in 2 years, because the interior of our defensive line, it doesn't help them out when offensive linemen can move up to the second level and block them and make run lanes.
And see, that's where I think the problem with thinking about drafting a defensive tackle that high is because although we are really bad against the run, our defensive line is not that bad. We lead the league in sacks. But on the other hand, our offensive line also leads the league in sacks allowed. So that means that we have one really good and one really, really bad. So if we're going to fortify any kind of position of line at the 7 or 8 pick, I would probably go with the best offensive tackle or guard you can find, because we need to have most help there, I think, than anywhere else.
Well, yeah, I mean, is that we could go guard. I mean, we could go lineman or defensive lineman, but I mean, you can't only look at that sack number because the run defense is so atrocious, right? And then the other idea is this: is that what the reason I kind of like the idea of going hog molly defensive tackle right now is because there's this kind of attitude from the coaching staff that Brian Burns couldn't handle playing like just as a defensive end, like he's this liability when clearly he is like he's the only thing that's really electric out there. So what we need to do is put players around him that can let him blossom into who he needs to be, rather than just saying, well, it's not time yet. And then he's going to evolve as a player. I was thinking that Brian Burns next year, as he starts to grow into a man body more and more, is could be a nightmare. I mean, he's been a nightmare this year. So give him some help and let him kind of run free a little bit. And I don't know if we have a lot of talent there, and we're getting old quick again. I mean, think of this: Mario Addison, right? McCoy. KK is getting up there. He's hitting 30, right? Is that the question is we need some youth injected there. Now, the offensive line is horrendous as well. In fact, it was worse today than it's been all year, I think.
What do you think the problem is? Like, honestly, I mean, when you look at it, is it a breakdown of one side, or is it just, with an offensive line, as we've said all season, it doesn't have to be everybody failing. It could be one person failing and the wall just falls. So is there one person that's just truly underperforming, or is it a true,
collective
cumulative
failure?
Collapse? Yeah.
Yeah. Why? It always feels like they got an extra player, man. Their defense every time.
Well, and I've said this before. Our offensive line is just straight up getting their asses kicked. Like it's like some old school bully type stuff, man. Like they beat us up. They always are able to push our offensive linemen back. I really do think that when we're talking about hiring new coaches, John Matsko needs to go too. John Matsko is a part of this old regime, and I'm no longer buying.
I don't want anybody with this team.
Yeah,
I feel like it's got a stink on it now.
And I did want to mention that, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Pro Football Focus. But so PFF had, and this was before today's game, that Matt Paradis had allowed 47 pressures on the year or something like that. And that is an astronomical amount for a center.
Really?
So not even for an offensive lineman, but specifically for a center, that's a ridiculous amount. And by the way, we were all happy. We all pretty much unanimously said that was our best free agent signing going into the year. I mean, he rated really well before when he played with the Denver Broncos, and then now he's just all of a sudden a liability on our football team.
But that brings up the question though. Is it him, or is there something deeper and more problematic happening that's causing a more systemic breakdown? That's what it seems like, right? You don't have these guys who go from being, considered some of the best in the NFL, Kuechly, Reed, you have a large amount of, McCoy, and then obviously Dontari Poe. I mean, you have by the names and the numbers, this should be a fantastic defensive line and a fantastic offensive line. But you know what? It just seems like on all phases, every aspect of our team has just collapsed. And it's not necessarily the talent is not good. That's where the argument of, where does this actually – where do we have to turn to fix this? Is it just coaching, or is there something deeper?
Yeah. I've been on this coaching thing for a while. I think we have a lot of talent. I've said it before. I just don't think that these coaches are capable of utilizing it.
We're going to have a lot of discussion about free agency ahead of us, right? But I want us to kind of remember this moment for when that comes around, is that One, I don't think Panther fans and us, even on this show, have a lot of experience with free agency. Right?
No.
Like, we have, as an organization, we don't really know much about this thing called free agency. But I do want to try to remember this for the future. Let me see, is how long is Matt Paradis? Matt Paradis has been in the league since he started playing in 2015. All right. So he played 4 seasons with the Denver Broncos. Let me just remind us that when we go to sign a free agent, to not overly get excited about a player who's coming off an injury, even if they have been rated well in the past, right? Because one, it's very hard with an offensive lineman, like CK is saying, is how do you rate a player? How do you, when we can see that it's like this collective, this unit so much. So, like, how was Denver's line as a whole during that time, number one? And number two is, like, we got to stop getting hype about people coming off an injury, man.
Yeah.
And Matt Paradis was coming off of some sort of leg injury.
Was Matt Khalil.
Yeah. And we cannot. Now, at the same time, I'm about to ask you guys, should we go get AJ Green?
Not at all, man. Not at all.
So?
Why, man? We need something, dude. We don't have enough.
Would you trade Cam Newton for AJ Green? I mean,
I wouldn't trade.
No, I wouldn't trade.
But
Cam
what I
for
mean
anything.
is, the contract that AJ Green is going to demand is going to require that we get rid of somebody of a high dollar or high capacity.
Do you think he really can? He's been hurt so much. I'm surprised.
What have
I'll
you
be
done
surprised
in that
if
league, man. Yeah.
I would be surprised if he's able to get as much as that we're thinking.
Hey, man, have you seen how many wide receiver needy teams are out there that have a lot of cap room? You know, one that comes to mind right now? The Colts. The Colts, I guarantee you, would pay him.
But let me just jump in here. AJ Green might be rewarded for his patience of staying with the Cincinnati Bengals if they draft Joe Burrow, which I guarantee you the Bengals are going to do. I do think that the difference in talent level between Andy Dalton and Joe Burrow, even though Burrow has never played in the NFL, I'll give you that. So I'll jump back a little, but Joe Burrow is doing some really special things for LSU right now. I think if you're AJ Green, you would covet the chance to have a quarterback throwing you the football. And that's where me and Tony have kind of disagreed on Curtis Samuel. Like, Curtis Samuel could have had an incredible season this year.
Yep.
But he just doesn't have a guy. I mean, even today, I was there. Will Greer underthrew him on a beautiful route that Curtis Samuel ran. Curtis Samuel had to come back to the football, and Marshawn Lattimore just ended up running into him. Like, as a receiver, you're only as good as the player throwing you the football. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you have to have a good quarterback to do it. I like our receiver positions right now. I wouldn't mind adding another big-body red zone receiver to the mix, but, I mean, you need a healthy, capable quarterback to compete at the high level like that.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of wide receivers, did DJ Moore even play today?
I think he's hurt.
Is he okay? I didn't hear his name one time today.
He's still out with a concussion.
Yeah, he and Shaq Thompson were out today.
Shaq Thompson had his shoulder cleaned up.
Yep.
He was going to do it in the offseason, but since he was out with a foot injury, I got a tough question for you, Cody, is if Trevor Lawrence could come out this year.
Don't do this to me, you
If
bastard.
he could come out this year, would you, if you're Cincinnati, would you pick Joe Burrow over him?
Well, so this is the conversation about Joe Burrow. You have 2 seasons where, one, he was kind of pedestrian in a kind of a pedestrian offense, and now he looks like the best quarterback that's ever played football ever. So, you kind of have to take a bet on what kind of player that you're getting. I mean, if I had – so obviously I'm biased, but, I mean, Trevor Lawrence has never lost a college football game. And if you saw what he just did against an Ohio State team that kicked his ass up and down the field, and it didn't even matter. He made plays in crunch time. He has a much better arm. He's much more mobile. He's a physically talented, 6'6", 220 pounds, a rocket arm. You can't teach that. So I would still go Lawrence first, just because he's been incredible whenever he's played football. And Joe Burrow currently has one season of incredible football. But Joe Burrow, I listen, if the Panthers, if we were moving on from Cam and we had to pick Joe Burrow, I would not be mad at that. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Brad Dugan says, can we fire RV and the worst Panthers reporter ever, David Newton? No, we're keeping him around like a treasure. David Newton matches the team. All right, let's go to the next call, 252.
David Newton must have some dirt on the head of ESPN, dude. I do not know for the life of me.
I think he just flies under the radar. I think he flies under the radar, and I think his goofiness actually gets him more clicks than like his misprints and stuff. So I think that they're okay with him because
I hope we call someone a retard and they move him somewhere else.
All right, next call.
What's up, guys? Kyle from PA. Well, we finally made it through this damn season. It's finally over. Not much to really talk about in this game other than Brian Burns still showing out when he gets a chance. And Christian McCaffrey just being an absolute stud. Christian McCaffrey is a once-in-a-lifetime type talent. And when we get a healthy Cam Newton back and him on this team, it's going to be a different story. Gotta get that defense right. The Saints to me, the Saints disrespected us. They didn't have to leave their starters in that much, but they did. And that's why I fucking hate the Saints. I pray to God we come back next year and just dog them and the damn Falcons. I hope. I really hope. Sweep both of them. That would be beautiful. Other than that, man, I'm just glad the season's finally over. After being so hopeful at the beginning, it's over, man. Time to watch some playoffs.
I feel you, bro.
This playoffs is going to be intense, man. It's going to be crazy. It's a lot of really good stacked teams. So that's going to be fun to watch unfold. And this off-season is going to be pretty... It's going to be interesting to keep up with who's running for the head coach job and the GM and all of that. Me personally, I want Eric Washington. I want everybody that's on this damn coaching staff right now and on the fucking medical staff. I want them all gone.
Yeah.
Everyone that has anything to do with what's going on right now is just fucking ass. And that's all it really is to that. But yeah, I'm ready to watch some playoff football, I guess. It would be a lot better with the Panthers, but unfortunately, we sucked ass this year.
Yeah.
All right, so I can't wait for the show. Keep pounding.
Man, thanks for the call, man. A lot of good stuff a very honest call, and I'm with you, man. I don't want anything to do with anybody on the coaching staff, and I'm not trying to be insulting to anybody, but we need something fresh and new. This felt like an all-time low today. Sports Live and the ATL coming in here even saying, what the heck happened to the Panthers today, 42-10. And, the Saints didn't even look like they had to try that hard, though. Drew Brees had 253 yards passing. Nobody had 100 yards rushing. Not even Murray had 61, and they still put up 42 points. So I think this was a low. I think we hit rock bottom today. It was we put down the old dog today, and it's kind of a tip of our cap to Greg Olson. Thank you to Christian McCaffrey, and I hope we get something out of some of the rest of you guys next year. We'll see how it all shakes out. How quickly do you expect... Oh, speaking of, I saw some news from Rappaport this morning that says that the Panthers are interested in talking to Josh McDaniels. Mike McCarthy last week, guys. I even heard somebody say that they're offering the Perry Fuel interview as not only as a customary interview, but it takes care, and they were saying
the Rooney Rule.
The Rooney Rule. So I don't know if that is as shrewd as why the Panthers are doing it, but what are you guys thinking about some of these names now? McCarthy, people are trying to push that. I don't think there's enough to it. I think that's just people trying to drum up a story.
I don't understand that.
I don't think it's anyone trying to drum up a story. We gave him 2 interviews, not one, but 2. We gave him 2 interviews. He's the only coach that we have interviewed 2 times now, and I'm just gonna keep
they say it went really well.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. If David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers hire Mike McCarthy, I'm selling all my stock on David Tepper. I'm selling all my stock on David Tepper if that's what happens, and I'll tell you why. Listen to any Green Bay fan tell you how long it took Mike McCarthy to fire Dom Capers, and Dom Capers was holding that defense back tremendously forever, and he just would not fire the guy. Like you're hiring the offensive Ron Rivera.
That's what I was about to say. The offensive reincarnate of Ron Rivera.
Yes,
Listen, you have the most conservative. Like he's not creating. Like here's the thing: you have a once in a lifetime generational talent at QB, and you still are refusing to build around him.
Yeah,
refusing. Like, and that is so frustrating. It's like you sit there and you just hope that everything works out. And that was exactly what we had with Ron Rivera. He was refusing to build a team around the most important pieces, such as Cam Newton. And that's exactly what they did down in Green Bay. You wanted somebody who has emotion, who can come in here and drum up the team to have some fire and everything. That is the opposite of what Mike McCarthy is.
Yeah, but how can you say he didn't build around Aaron Rodgers? I'm assuming you're talking about Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he built around Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had weapons his whole career. Now,
really?
He's gotten it done without weapons as well. But he's always had a Devontae Adams or a Randall Cobb or a Geronimo Allison or a Greg Jennings.
Every one of them are like 5th rounders.
But they're amazing. Well, yeah, okay, that's a good point.
What was the kid What was the kid from that went to Oakland that was really good? That for
Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
So, that's a Kansas State.
What I kind of think CK is trying to say is like when you look at Mike McCarthy's game plan was we're gonna put everything on Aaron Rodgers and hope that he makes these incredible plays all the time. And that's literally what our offense has done with Cam Newton since the time that he's been here. Like when you have a and I talked about this last show, when you have a franchise quarterback, you have to do right by them. So obviously our general manager has to draft the right players, but also you have to call plays that benefit your offense, and you're not having to always put all the stress and all the pressure on your franchise quarterback, because it doesn't matter if it's Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or Cam Newton. That is a recipe for disaster. They're going to tee off on their quarterback. They're going to pick up on what you do and what you want to do, and they're going to shove it in your face. I would be absolutely livid. Panther fans will never see me so mad on this show if they hire Mike McCarthy, dude.
Hey, Chef Jeff said...
I don't want McCarthy.
Chef Jeff said, can we start a petition to finally get rid of McMixon and his horribly awkward, borderline, homoerotic play-by-play calls? Bring back Zoki. I was trying to think here as you guys were talking, and Jeff, you'll appreciate this, what McMixon would say about Mike McCarthy. And it'll be like, as his supple...
I got it. Yeah, so he was talking about Ron Rivera's ample chest.
Yeah.
Maybe he was talking about McCarthy's girthy stomach. His wonderfully round pot.
His boyish cheeks. His boyish cheeks.
His massive bosoms.
Yeah. I was thinking, man.
His supple love handles.
All right, is there anything though? There is something to Cody. Is that why wouldn't you do that with Aaron Rodgers though? You know, like at that point, it won him a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl doing it.
Well,
that was after, like, that was a team that wasn't built by McCarthy, though, right?
well,
It was coached by him, though.
Yeah, so listen, I think that's kind of the trap that people fall into. Like, you equate the Super Bowl or even a Super Bowl appearance like Ron Rivera, and people think that means that you're a great head coach. Well, what's the guy that Jacksonville just fired? Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin won 2 Super Bowls, and nobody was knocking down his door for him to be a coach anywhere. Like,
well, because he was like 70 something.
He's old.
Yeah, but I'm also talking about, you look at the players and what they managed to do with their players. Green Bay also had a much better defense in 2009. Clay Matthews was playing his best football they ever had. A lot of things went well for them that wasn't just on Aaron Rodgers being incredible. And yeah, he was incredible, but I'm not down for an offense where if your quarterback doesn't play incredible, you're not going to win the football game.
Yeah. You're right. That's what we've had for the last.
I don't know if there is an offense that isn't like that, though.
Oh,
sure there is.
They can look up.
I mean, like, every team that's doing well, their quarterback is playing incredible.
Yeah, but there's a difference between
the 49ers.
Yeah, so there's a difference.
But the 49ers aren't even playing that well right now. They haven't won a lot lately.
True. They've lost 3 of their last 8.
Garoppolo is effectively running his offense, which doesn't ask him to have to do too much, and that's the difference. Like, you don't, if you're asking your quarterback to hit go routes and slants down the field all the time, with a single high safety on the field, you're only going to come up with so many of those.
I just think it presupposes that Mike McCarthy couldn't coach a team without, or that he would coach every team like he had Aaron Rodgers.
Tony, let me pose this question directly to you, though. Knowing how bad this Panthers football team is right now, and knowing that we have to have someone that's going to instill a winning culture here in Carolina, do you think Mike McCarthy is the guy that would do that for this Carolina Panthers team?
No.
I
mean, and the reason I say that is actually I don't think that I think you could find some success with a guy like Mike McCarthy. And what I am actually intrigued by is the idea. I'm not really interested in hiring a coordinator to be a head coach right now. I don't know. I'm nervous about that, because I've seen it go wrong a lot as well. So I do like the idea of somebody who has had some sort of head coaching experience, even if it wasn't successful. Having some success makes it better. I worry, though, McCarthy just kind of gets you and I think the reference to Ron Rivera is kind of a good one. An offensive Ron Rivera. I think that's a great analogy in a way, because I think you could be like, oh yeah, we would. It'd be like getting John Fox. Did John Fox make the Denver Broncos a little bit better? Did he make the Bears a little bit better? Yes, he made all these teams to do better. But it's not like he's still there as an anchor and a fixture of the organization. So I don't know. I want something a little bit more exciting that I think has more longevity than a Mike McCarthy. But there is something to some tenure. The tenure, man. That's being there before helps.
Well, but then that kind of narrows down your list, though, because you're saying you want somebody that was a head coach elsewhere. Like, really, if you look at the current names, the only guy that matches that scenario is Josh McDaniels, and he was fired at Denver. So,
I kind of like that idea, man.
Yeah, I mean, I listen. I really like the idea of Josh McDaniels too. I think he's a great offensive mind, and he's been a part of that winning culture. He knows what it takes to build it. He's been there for a long time. I also shout out to God of Blackness. I still really like Kevin Stefanski. I think if you put him with the kind of talent that we have on our offense, I think that's a good name. I mean, if it depends on the person that we hire. If it's the right person, I don't necessarily care too much about where they came from. I know this is really apples to oranges, but if you look at what Joe Brady has done for LSU's offense, and that dude is my age, and he went to like Marshall or something like that. But it takes a different kind of mindset to be able to turn what you do upside down. So if we hired the right guy, I really don't care too much what their prior history is.
Do you think? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I get what you're saying. My thing about McDaniels is he's the offensive coordinator for the Patriots right now, right?
Yes,
correct.
Look at their offense. The last 8-9 weeks, actually, the whole year basically, has been very, very pedestrian. I know they're 12-4. They lost today. They're
did lose.
They did.
Oh wow.
They lost to the Dolphins.
Dolphins threw a touchdown pass with like 4 seconds left, or 24 seconds left, something like that.
Did the Bills play? Did the Bills have a chance to jump them?
No.
They're like 3 games back or something.
Well, they could have tied them, I think, for the record. But even if they could, Patriots have the tiebreaker.
Had the tiebreaker, yeah. But no, I mean, look at their offense this year, y'all. I mean, it really has been very, very. Their defense has been carrying that team.
I think that's a fair point. I think that is a fair point because we kind of are like just assume, I guess resting on the idea that he is a super genius offensive guy. And you didn't see it. You haven't seen it this year. They've had some problems adjusting. I don't know, Cody. Do you think Lincoln Riley's position has changed at all, and can come into the NFL losing, getting just straight dominated? Does that hurt his stock? Help his stock? Do you think that entrenches him to come back? I'm wondering, is there any story there?
Yeah, so this is kind of my thing. Lincoln Riley, obviously, if anybody saw what happened this past weekend, LSU just boat raced Oklahoma. And this happens every year to him. And one of the things that I think is apparent is that Lincoln Riley, he's great on offense, but I don't necessarily know if he's great at building a defensive coaching staff that can actually get it done. Now, before I completely shit on the man, it's very different in college because you're having to recruit against other powerhouse football teams in college. You're trying to get 17, 8-year-old kids to come and choose your school over, so if I'm a 5-star defensive end, am I going to go to Alabama? Or
and you ran into a juggernaut with LSU.
The best offense in college football right now. But to counter that, it's happened to them 3 years in a row. They always get the number 4 spot in the playoff, and then the SEC teams just come and kick their ass every single time. I do think that Jalen Hurts are kind of seeing that he doesn't really – and shout out to God of Blackness. He mentioned Jalen Hurts. I know he's a fan. But you kind of saw that Jalen Hurts didn't really have the arm talent to make the plays against LSU. But we have seen Lincoln Riley put up incredible offenses before. I do think he could have success in the NFL. But it's going to be incumbent upon a general manager building up a great defensive side of the football and having a defensive coordinator that knows how to use it.
I tell you, that Ohio State quarterback, man, looks like an NFL player.
Justin Fields?
Yeah. He just looks like one.
So him and Trevor Lawrence came out, went to college in the same year, and every publication had them ranked number 1 and number 2. And they were the 2 best players in the country, and they were both quarterbacks, and that never happens.
All right, let's go on to the next call.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing?
What's up, G?
What's up, G?
Yay, finally. The bleeding has finally stopped.
It's over.
Finally stopped.
God, it has been excruciating.
Year, man. How the living fuck did we go 5-11, man? Good gracious. And you know what pisses me off, man? First of all, I want to say congratulations to C-Mac getting 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving. That's something, man. That is something. Why the living hell did you guys notice come the fourth quarter, they started adding all these damn players in. Davis came in. Bonifant came in. Where the fuck were these people at in the first quarter? I never understood.
Last week.
Eric Washington, y'all got to go, man. Y'all really have to. You guys are not good coaches at all. especially Perry Fuel. That dude, get him the fuck out. He don't know what the hell he's damn doing.
He's this was the worst thing that could have happened to him.
You know what I'm saying? But you gotta get the fuck up out of here, man. Like, for real, man. And before I go, I have only this one thing to say. In the 2020 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select to be continued. Keep pounding.
All right. It was where these players needed to be out there a couple of weeks ago in some ways, but what about that catch? CK, what was his name?
Zylstra.
Yeah,
dude. Like he had two really good catches. That one that you're talking about is the fingertip catch out towards the sideline. The other one was the one that was a touchdown they called back because he was touched with that foot. But yeah, dude, that dude showed up out of nowhere. But like is that not a prime example of what this coaching staff and this era of coaching that we've had? It just illustrates it to a T. That guy's been sitting on the bench all season for the most part. He was signed somewhere in the middle of the season, but he's been there ready to be able to try to get an opportunity. And when we couldn't get anything, couldn't strike any luck with our offense, moving down the field outside of DJ Moore, that dude's just sitting there, right? It should have been a lot earlier. We could have gotten a look at him, but hey, man, that was an incredible outing for him.
Why can't the refs move the damn ball when they see that they are 2 yards off the spot as they look at it 800 times? We had to watch it 800 times. I understand not being able to challenge everything, but gosh, that ball was on the one.
What's irritating? Go ahead. I was gonna say what's irritating about the challenging rule is it seems like on certain plays they can change one thing that wasn't the reason it was being challenged, but not in other ones. Because I've seen it happen this year. There was a Carolina towards the beginning of the season. There was a play
when it was like a fumble. Remember Ron Rivera challenged if it was a catch, and then they ended up calling it like a fumble or something like that.
It was a fumble, but they said that they couldn't tell whether his knee was down, and it was a catch. They couldn't tell whether his knee was down or not, so they just maintained the incomplete.
and like that blows my mind. You're right. I don't understand where the line is, and I really think it has to do with, like I said, I think that refs do certain things for certain teams because this is a television show and they want better ratings. Like the rules are always changing, man. It's irritating.
Do you? Did we used to be able to challenge a spot? I feel like I've seen teams challenge
if it's resulting in a first down. Like if it's not it has not.
He got a first down.
Well, no. What I mean is like if it was a third down and you had 3 yards to go and they marked you down a yard shy, and the difference between that 1 yard is the difference between a first down, a new set of downs or not. That's something you can challenge the spot of the ball. But like if the same outcome outside of yardage is already going to be the case, there is no movement, unfortunately. Even though that sounds backwards, you'd think that if you go back and you challenge a play. Like, I know you may not be able to challenge a holding, but, like, if you challenge a play and they happen to see a holding during the replay, I feel like you should be able to call that. But, hey.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the NFL gets their referees from the school of the blind. Because, dude, we've talked about how bad the NFL referees are before.
Oh, it's been bad so far this year, too, man.
Yeah,
it's been real bad. I don't understand the refusal to allow for full-time referees where their only job is to be a referee.
Yeah, it's so necessary.
It's because you got to keep raising that salary cap so you can give those quarterbacks $50 million a year. That's why you can't do that, man.
And I don't think they're getting better at all. Like either is that we saw throughout the whole season. Or early in the season that the NFL had encouraged the refs to swallow the whistle, right? Mm-hmm. And let the play pan out, and that way you don't blow something dead by accident. And even with that Zeiss, whatever that dude's name is, that touchdown or almost touchdown, that got called a touchdown. You know what I'm saying?
And so like they should have. And they got overruled.
Yeah, they should have
Which is
called it
crazy to me.
kept it a touchdown, reviewed it, said it's not a touchdown, then put the ball on the one.
100%.
How about this? Is that I know that today is a hard day for Carolina Panther fans, and we're glad that it's over. But did you guys see that Jameis Winston became the first player in NFL history to throw 30 or more touchdowns and 30 interceptions? And his 30th interception came today on a pick six to win the game in overtime where Falcons took down Tampa. What an accolade.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man.
That's
impressive.
That's 4 records today broken just in the NFC South.
They're talking that they're going to extend him.
I think they will.
But we need to get Gene back on the podcast to talk about it. But maybe do a franchise tag.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I don't. So there's this trend that I was reading online that Bruce Arians, the first time he has a quarterback, he always throws a bunch of interceptions their first year. This goes to Andrew Luck, Carson Palmer, Roethlisberger. But then in the second year that they're together with whatever quarterback he's with, they always end up putting up good numbers and doing way better than they did before. So maybe that's the methodology behind it. You bring in
break them down to square one.
Well, Jameis was a big part of the reason that that Arians signed on over there.
Yeah.
So if they let him go, then I could see like that. That just eliminated the reason that Arians even became a head coach for them.
Yeah.
So I think so too. But the problem is, I think he's going to ask for too much money, and then they're going to have to let one of those stars on the offense go. That's really helping his numbers be inflated right now. But if Jameis can put it all together, I think the NFC South has some things to be scary about, because if he can maintain the same production he's been having without the mistakes, that dude can run through the NFC South.
Yeah,
but
that's a big if. Though.
I tell you this, as Jameis Winston trying to be the Black George Blanda.
Who? Come again?
You don't know who George Blanda is?
Nah, dude, I'm the youngest person you've ever met.
I didn't know George Blanda until my friend told me about him. In 1962, George Blanda played for the Houston Oilers, and he threw, get this, 42 interceptions. He has the most interceptions in NFL history, George Blanda. Nice. So we wanted to make a T-shirt. My friend wanted to make a T-shirt that said, "Your quarterback looked like George Blanda."
How in the world do you get to, why did they not just bench him after 37? 35 would have been like, all right, there's a problem.
Yeah, how did it even get to be that bad?
He had a career. This can't. You will not believe this. He played from 1949 to 1975. He had
almost 30 years. Wow.
He had a career 277 interceptions. George Blanda.
Yeah. Dude, it's so funny because I was talking with my brother about this stuff, talking about what teams are the most dominant all time. This is my deal. If you give me a team that played football before black people were allowed to play, it doesn't count, dude. I do not care. I don't care what the 1939 Packers or Yankees or whatever, dude. It does not count until black people were allowed to play in the sport. Then you're doing something meaningful. People say Babe Ruth is the best of all time. Dude, fuck that so hard, man. A bunch of white dudes running around on the field. No, sir. Not at all. So,
Jameis Winston fits right in with the 1962 George Blandas of the world.
Maybe so, dude. But they didn't even throw the football back then.
That's what makes it even better.
Possible.
Yeah. He had. How about this? This is awesome. He had in 1960. He did have 418 attempts. Wow. In 1962, he completed 197. He had a 47.1% completion rate.
Nice.
Whoa.
Threw under 50%, and all of them were interceptions. That's what Jameis Winston did this year. All right, let's go to the next call. The number is 252-228-5098. Your quarterback looked like George Blanda. Uh-oh. I can't hear homeboy.
I can barely hear him.
Yeah, I can't either.
All right.
Did we get butt dialed?
Sounds like it.
No, I heard him say it 4-3. I mean, he was saying something. We can't hear him.
All right, so
if you're listening, call back. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Now, where do we go on from this? Today, I don't even know what else to look at when it comes to the stat sheet with this. Really, this is just the end. This is the turning the page, new chapter. Any concerns, Cody, that... Well, actually, no, I'm not going to ask that question. My question to you guys is this, is when do you expect to hear any news when it comes to what's next with the Carolina Panthers? Do you think it's, that it starts to unfold quickly after this week? Do you think we're going to see teams go through the playoffs a little bit? What do you expect the timeline to be?
I got a feeling that David Tepper is a bird in the hand type of guy. He's not going to let an opportunity walk out the door with the potential of it being picked up by somebody else. So if he finds somebody he really likes, which is my fear with Mike McCarthy, then I don't think that it's going to be a long time before we see some news being, released that we have a new head coach. I could see it in the next few weeks, but at the same time, it depends upon how much he really cares about getting a college coach in here.
Who was it that was telling us about this team of coaches Mike McCarthy had? Who was it that was telling us like how well they, like what they've actually done in the NFL? Was that on this show that I heard that?
Yeah, I remember we were talking about it the other day, but
so he hired he's got these coaches on call that they've been meeting with several hours a day, but then I thought it was you, Cody, that was telling us like the most they've ever been as a defensive coordinator on this team. No, I must have been on a different.
I don't remember it. I said a lot of shit, dude.
Must have been when I was on the radio. But the point was this: is you hear about this team of coaches that he has working around the clock with him, and whatever I was listening to, they said, or I thought I was part of the conversation. They said that like none of them have had any real success, though.
I'm pretty sure it was on ours on C3.
We may be talking about when we were a few weeks ago when we were talking about the New England coaches and we were talking about anybody that's come from the Belichick tree has had success. And then somebody was trying to say that Vrabel did, but Vrabel wasn't from the Belichick tree.
Yeah, now that I do remember.
That may be what you're talking about. Yeah,
I do remember talking about that with the Patriots. But did you guys also hear this story that I think I'm getting this right, that we tried to interview or that we requested to interview, I think it was the Illinois head coach. It was one of these northern teams, and he declined to interview with us. And like people were like, "Oh, that's he doesn't want to go to the Panthers." Like it was a slight to the Panthers, but like apparently that guy, and it's so stupid. I don't remember the name of it, but he never ever wants to like leave the school that he's at or something, or he really loves where he's at. So it wasn't necessarily like he did.
The job wasn't attractive.
Yeah, like the job wasn't attractive. I've also heard Matt Rule's name mentioned, that the Panthers are interested in doing an interview with Matt Rule, the head coach of Baylor. And Baylor had a really good year this year. They almost won the Big 12. But that's another guy whose name has kind of been in the rumor mill.
So when you say Bert, do you think that then, does that make you really think that Mike McCarthy could be the guy then, ZK?
I mean, my fear, when you bring somebody in for a second interview this early on, like that's my fear. That's the reason I'm, I feel the way that I do, and I'm worried for Cody's sake and his mental well-being that I have a feeling that Tepper is not the type to sit there and let somebody walk out the door that he has if he feels like that's going to be the answer moving forward, he's not going to waste somebody's time. He doesn't seem like the type of guy who's going to waste his own time or somebody else's time. And so like I said, it's a fear of mine. I don't want McCarthy, but that part of me almost makes me think that McCarthy is in the lead as far as potential candidates.
Why would you have 2 interviews? I mean, I understand why you have 2 interviews. Usually, though, that means you're getting hired. Well, like, if I ever went back for a second interview, like, that's strange. They've already interviewed him twice. Have they even interviewed Fuel yet? Or are they just going to do that, like, real quick this afternoon?
What it probably was is when he was in his interview, he probably said, I have a 10-step plan to give you success, and he wouldn't give them the 10-step plan like in The Office. So if you guys have ever watched The Office, there's a time when Michael Scott's leaving, so they're interviewing office candidates, and they have what's-his-face who played in Will Arnett, I think is his name, right? Who played in who's Batman for the Legos movie. But
Will Arnett, yeah.
he says, I have a 10-step plan to increase profits. And they're like, all right, what is it? He was like, I'm not gonna tell you that. Then you have no reason to give me the job. Just gonna take it. But that's why they needed more information. They're trying to decipher what his 10-step plan is, so they don't have to hire him.
I think that they're. I mean, I really have no evidence to back anything about what I'm about to say as far as what I feel, because I really don't have any kind of way of determining it. But I think if I know Tepper, I think like you, I agree with you, CK. He's not going to let an opportunity walk away. But I also believe he's a guy who's going to do his due diligence and looking. He got rid of Rivera so that way he could have more time and jump on this thing kind of quicker. I don't think he's gonna. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's gonna completely X out any kind of college coaches, but I haven't heard anything about any of that. I just feel like it's gonna be a little bit of time before we hear anything. I think the reason that
I think his reasoning that he said that he wanted to get a step in the competition is the reason I think he pulls the trigger quicker. If he gives those coaches an opportunity to interview somewhere else and they also give him an offer, well, now they're in a bidding war. It almost seems, right. That part is the part that I think that's where he's wanting the competitive advantage. Is he wants to get the interviews done. He wants to be able to already have his coach ready for the league's new year and actually have somebody who's got a vision for what the future of the franchise is and get him in here and moving.
I would be much more excited though if we were hearing news about a potential whoever this GM candidate's going to be.
Hey guys, I'll be right back. I'll be back in like 10 or 15 minutes. I'll be right back.
All right.
Well, actually, Cody, I was going to let you know real quick, guys. I got to go.
All right, Greg. We're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon anyway.
All right, Greg. I'll be right back.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. What were you saying? What was your question, Tony?
I was saying that I would feel better about this. Is that so? I think you're absolutely right about Tepper's instinct of wanting to be decisive. I think he's going to want to look like this is a very orchestrated, he's executing, just checking off, making these master moves. I think he wants it to look like that. And because of that, I would much be more excited to be hearing news about who we're interested in bringing in as this GM apparent. And then,
have you heard about the specifics about these interviews?
No.
They say that Marty Herney is very heavily involved. So what that leads to, and if you read stories, it's saying that it leads to say that Marty Herney is safe within the organization, but as we've said before, it could still mean that we're going to be looking at a change of responsibility for him. But he is heavily involved with the interview process, meaning that David Tepper trusts him unequivocally, I would say. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in any of those interviews.
That's crazy. I got a good comments by Tyler Lovato. Thanks for tuning in to the show, Tyler. He said Matt Rule was a former quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, and now he's a defensive head coach. This man is extremely knowledgeable of both sides of the ball, and every program he's been in, he's built from nothing. He's my first pick, then Josh McDaniels. And then Brad Dugan asked this, is any thoughts on Urban Meyer?
I don't want Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, he's the type of coach, and I know some people have different opinions on this, but when you're in college, you have to coach these guys a certain way. But, in Urban Meyer, everywhere he goes, he always has some sort of and it may not necessarily be something with him in particular, but for whatever reason, controversy follows him. But beyond that, he rules with an iron fist. And if you ask NFL players, I think some of them will agree they need to be coached, but there are some people who say they don't want to be disrespected. They're making millions of dollars. They're grown men. You need to be able to.
They're making more money than the coach.
Yeah, some of them certainly. And so you almost have this respect you have to have for your players when you go to the NFL. And Urban Myers has not had that experience. He's only been that type to, iron fist, yelling at you, holding everybody accountable, which is okay, in that instance. But I think NFL is a completely
I'm worried he's going to
different
have
animal.
like an aneurysm, man. He's suffered with the depression. Like, he's just run so hot. And I think you're right. I think he's a college coach. I think he's a good fit for a college,
Who are we talking about?
Urban Meyer. We were asked, somebody asked, Brad Dugan asked, what's your guys' thoughts on Urban Meyer? You'll like this comment from Tyler Lovato, Cody. He said, Matt Rule was a former quarterbacks coach, OC, and now he's a defensive head coach. This man is extremely knowledgeable of both sides of the ball. Every program he's been with, he's built from nothing. So we've just been kind of looking and thinking about, the other thing is that we were talking about while you were gone is that CK was kindly, I don't know if it's kindly, informing me that Marty Herney has been heavily involved with this process.
So disappointing.
Yeah, and my thoughts that he was going to be ushered out the door quickly, or doesn't look like that's happening.
No, it really doesn't, man, and that's so disappointing. You had an opportunity to redo this whole thing, and I think you should have. I mean, why not?
I think that's still possible. Now, not necessarily out the door, and by all intents and purposes, his position within the organization is probably safe, but he's still probably there's still a possibility he's in a different position come the new league year. So there may still be a GM that they hire, but right now, because of there's only so much turnover you want to have before we end up starting to have you want to keep the draft, especially before the draft, you want to keep Herney in place for all that, but there's got to be some level of consistency for a process like this, because if you start bringing in a new GM in the midst of all of this, I think you're putting yourself.
Well, you got to bring them in at some point, though.
I'm fine with them bringing them in. I think right now, if you want to have any form of success with this coach hiring process, you've got to have some consistency within the organization. If everything comes at this coach with, I'm new to this position, then that coach is going to sit there and there's going to be some sort of shock. Wouldn't you agree?
I think, though, what we're forgetting in some ways, or what I would caution, is that most of the time it doesn't go well when you mix and match head coach and GM. Dave Gettleman coming to Carolina and working with Ron Rivera is actually an anomaly, I feel like, is that usually, the GM, anytime I hear of a coach being hired before the GM and then the GM being in there making this and that, I think of like the Jets and how they were always fighting for personnel decisions between Todd Bowles and and I don't like that wishy-washy there. I want some clarity from the top down, and that's why I think it would be nice to at least say this is who we want to be a part of making this decision with us.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just minding your P's and Q's. You don't want him to be in the position forever, but I don't know. If you don't want him to be in the position forever and you're going to hire an assistant GM that's going to come and ultimately replace him, then why would you let him be such a huge part of your planning and your choosing of things going forward right now?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's not really like you're moving on to a different area. You're still using the same decision makers that made the wrong decisions previously to make the right decisions going forward.
Well,
like,
Marty Herney's made some pretty good decisions. I mean,
Yeah.
Ron Rivera worked out. Ron Rivera worked
for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, the benefits of moving on outweigh the negatives, but that's not what we decided to do. And so,
let me ask you this, just and just because there's different strategies to it all. There's an art to getting rid of the GM, right? If we got rid of Marty Herney right now, his scouts are his scouts. They're not necessarily the organization scouts, right? So now you essentially get rid of an entire year's worth of draft or prospects and scouting and things along those lines, where if you got rid of him now as well, David Tepper's probably given him a vision of where he wants the future of the franchise to be. And if you let him go out the window, out before the draft, well, guess what? If some other team wants to pick him up, now they know the Panthers draft strategy moving forward.
When will we start hearing news about people being fired? And when do you think that? Does that start tomorrow?
That's tomorrow. Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's Black Monday.
So, yeah, literally the reason why we decided to fire Ron Rivera now was to get a jump on all this. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be out
hire Mike McCarthy.
Hire Mike McCarthy. But no, I seem to think that you would that you should start to hear things rather quickly. I mean, that was the whole point of getting a jump on this whole thing. So
if we were to hire Mike McCarthy, Cody, what could he come in? What would he need to come in and say to soften you to him?
I've just been hired on to cook in the kitchen and make these guys some of my famous Ringer Schnitzel stew or some shit. Dude, I don't want him anywhere near this football team. I'm cut and dry on this. I am black and white. Dude, if we hire Mike McCarthy, I am not a happy camper, man. At all.
Anything that he could, what would he need to say to you, CK, to soften you to the idea?
I've lost my memory, and I have been uploaded with a consciousness of another human who is better at coaching than I am.
I think, gosh, you guys are so mean. I think what I would want him to say is that, I've been around success in the past. I've been a part of that success. And I've also been around, missed opportunities. Not missed opportunities, but I've also felt like how that seen those moments squandered, right? And now I'm ready to reset and correct some of those things that I could have done better in the past and be a bigger asset. Something to that effect. Or something like, we're going to create the most dynamic offense you've ever seen with Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton. Don't you worry, Cody. We can make an offense work where we ask the quarterback to do everything, and it's going to happen in 2020.
Well, let me ask this, because my memory's a little fuzzy because it's been a minute. When he left Green Bay, didn't he go out talking crap about Aaron Rodgers and stuff like that?
I don't know.
I remember it the other way around. That Aaron Rodgers was tired of Mike McCarthy and his stupid play calling. And then so they put out an article, I think it was on Sports Illustrated.
That's what it was.
And they, Aaron Rodgers and even people in the Packers organization had to come out and debunk or refute these claims. But they were saying that there would be times when Mike McCarthy was supposed to be in offensive meetings, and instead he was in this office getting a massage. Now, I don't know what is or isn't bullshit, but I don't know if that is true. That's not the He's not the kind of guy that we want to rebuild a football team, especially knowing where it is right now. I mean, listen, I'm not going to stop being a Panthers fan if we hire Mike McCarthy, but damn, it's not, I don't understand how that gets anyone excited about the prospects of what this team is going to do different next year.
The only thing that would excite me about his opening speech is if he says we're keeping Cam.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out what was going on with McCarthy and leaving Green Bay, and it said that there was a growing tension between him and Rodgers over play calling, and that I think it had something to do with. I don't think Rodgers is the easiest dude to work with either.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I think she said a mouthful. I think he's probably pretty difficult to work with. But I don't know. Also, keep this in mind, too. I think this bears repeating. If there's a very real possibility that, Cam Newton comes back next year and he's the quarterback of the football team, what player or coach, rather, do you think is going to get the most out of Cam Newton? Mike McCarthy, does that... he's going to be playing for a contract next year. Either he signs in the offseason or he decides to play out the last year of his deal. So, do you want Mike McCarthy calling plays for him? I don't know.
Yeah, Brad Dugan says if we hire McCarthy, we would do it this week. This is interesting. Now, I'm just reading this article on SI. I'm kind of just glancing over it as we've been talking about it. Mike McCarthy, supposedly in Green Bay, they had a low tolerance for outspoken players, was one thing that they mentioned earlier in the article. Now, there was this game this would have been a couple of games in that season he was fired. It says, even after a win in Buffalo, Rodgers criticized the offense and blamed the game plan. It was as bad as we played on offense. With that many yards in a long time, there was no flow to the game. We were a championship defensive level and non-playoff team offensive level. That was not great by any stretch. Now, he did later clarify that part of the blame was on him. But after he took a sack in a Bengals game, it was a sack late in the third quarter, Rodgers looked at the sideline and said, "Stupid fucking call."
Yeah, I remember the clip. I remember the clip seeing him mouth it.
So this is where it gets better, is that even after that, the following week, when Rodgers walked into his individual meeting with McCarthy, the head coach had the broadcast clip pulled up on the screen, ready to review and discuss it.
Oh my god.
Gosh. So here, you remember when you said stupid fucking call, Aaron Rodgers? Now we're in here in the principal's office. Imagine I think Cam is easy to work with. Right? That's what I think. I think Cam's pretty easy to work with when it comes to in comparison. So I don't think you have a ton of problems like this and that. But you got to wonder, you guys called him the offensive Ron Rivera. Part of my criticism of Ron was that he started to buy into himself a little bit too much. I wonder if that's an example, too, of McCarthy maybe buying into himself too much, where he's like, hey, we got to discipline your mouthiness. Let's watch the clip together.
Yep.
Yeah, it's you mentioned that Cam Newton doesn't seem hard to work with. I would even say he's so easy to work with. It's probably it doesn't do any good for him that he doesn't say anything. I think there are times when Cam has just kind of been like, even if the play calling was terrible, he does the quarterback thing. Oh, it's on me. I should have been better. I could have done better. I need to be better. Yep. But really, we all kind of see what's happening. We see that the play calling is terrible in the red zone, or just weird plays that aren't inventive, or an offensive line that doesn't hold up. All these different things. I think Cam, under Mike McCarthy would be the same thing. He's not gonna back talk him or disagree. Now maybe because Mike McCarthy would be new and Cam Newton is going to be one of the most tenured players on this roster next year, then maybe that is a little bit different. Maybe McCarthy would lean on the wisdom of Newton a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think so.
This is crazy. In the same story, it says that they were talking about a former coach that had a heavy-handed relationship with his quarterback, and that was Mike Holmgren. And he said that Matt Hasselbeck reported that Holmgren would threaten to fire Andy Reid, who was the quarterback's coach, if Favre changed the play again. And Favre liked Andy Reid. Favre liked Andy Reid. The Holmgren tree has been pretty successful of a coaching tree. That's one. I know that's a little going back a little bit for you, Cody. But he said this: if you change the play one more time, I will fire Andy Reid. Do you want him to be unemployed? That's what he said to Brett Favre.
That's pretty funny.
That's crazy. All right.
Imagine being that vindictive. Was that, hey, you do what I want, or I'm going to cut another man's paycheck.
I'm going to fire you, your neighbor and his whole family.
I'll do it. I'll cut him.
All right, so when we come back on Thursday, are any other thoughts about this game or anything about this team before we close it out?
It's all one blur of a giant beatdown. From this to the Colts to the Niners to the Redskins of all teams to the Falcons 2 times. Dude, it's just a blur.
It hasn't hurt as much as I thought it would.
Well, and it's because this is exactly what we thought would happen if Cam Newton wasn't our quarterback.
Yes, that's why I think that we're okay. Not okay, but not surprised.
We're not surprised, and it doesn't. It hurts because obviously you had so much hope coming into this year, but bottom line is that this is not. We got jaded there at the beginning because Kyle Allen showed some promise. And then that made us believe something was possible beyond Cam Newton, leading us to the promised land, at least until he got back to good health. And that's
we should have known that this defense was suspect. We saw it. We watched it all year. I think we did. We just were resigned. We knew we couldn't stop the run. We knew we aren't that good.
Yeah, the sack number, I think, kind of made us a little more comfortable. We're like, oh, look at those sacks. We're good. We got a bunch of sacks, guys. It's just not the way of the world. When you think about the way that this works, I think personally, season in review, I'm glad that it's over. I'm also very glad that Cam Newton didn't play this whole season because looking at the beatings that the quarterbacks took this year behind that offensive line, maybe this was actually the minor injury that would have occurred in the event of a much more serious injury had he played the whole year because that offensive line was not good. The part of it that I think is the other piece is I think Cam would have recognized those delayed blitzes. I think that it's easy to. I think that part is the part where you miss Cam Newton being able to call an audible at the line, being able to recognize where the pressure is coming from, and letting the offensive know, hey, listen, 23. When you hear Drew Brees in there talking about where the pressure is going to be coming from, he's almost got it right every single time. And so having that veteran experience is so key with the way that the defenses play in this league right now. So especially that we have to face every year.
So let me ask you both a question. Can I ask you both a question before we go? So if Cam Newton quarterbacks this team this year, the same roster, how many more wins do you think we have? What's our record this year at the end of this game if Cam Newton is our quarterback?
I don't think it's much different as far as the record. I think the games were a lot closer. We had a lot more blowout losses this year than we've had any year under Cam Newton. Even last year when he was hurt, there wasn't any but that one against the Steelers that we were not within striking distance in the last 5 minutes of the game. Yeah. Even with him being injured, we were still in a better spot. So I think that we would have. That's the part of it that's different. That defense is hard to overcome with any offense on the field. So that's the part that's why I think that we wouldn't have had much of a difference as far as the record, maybe a little bit better, but I think bottom line is, that defense would have lost us a lot of games.
Yeah, Tony,
I think that's a fair assessment. I don't know if it would be tremendously different, but Cam can change the dynamic. It just depends on what Cam you're talking about. Are you talking about Cam that we saw in week 1, week 2 against Tampa where he couldn't walk? No, like that. I don't know how much that would have done, but Cam can make up for a lot, and he could at least. Some of those games that were blowouts wouldn't have been blowouts, and some of those games that were close, he could have won for us, I think, or really helped mask some more of the deficiencies. But I don't know if it would have been I don't know. If you put in Cam Newton, and Cam Newton's playing towards the top of his game, though, then all of a sudden it could have been a 12-win team. It could have changed a lot of different things where that offensive line started playing with some confidence maybe at some point instead of just knowing that nothing's going to work. I don't really know. I just think the defense was so soft that I don't think you can, we would have had to put up 50 each week. So, there is going to be, this team is going to be significantly different next year. I'll be interested to see. How about this? It's just for your fun, for giggles. We are still paying. Captain Munnerlin got $3 million. Took up $3 million in cap space. Matt Khalil took up $4.9 million. Denoris, are we still paying Denoris Cersei?
Are we really?
Yeah, jeez. Not like a lot, but
that's a name I hadn't thought about since forever.
Gosh, it's been like 2 years, hasn't it?
Denoris Cersei. I didn't even ever hear a name and you're like,
I think he was with us in 2017.
Yeah, so I will say this though, the last thing about today's game, man, dude, whenever you see the Panthers play in person without Cam Newton, it's a whole different thing. Kyle Allen would do these bootleg plays where, he would fake a bootleg and go out to the right. And the entire defense knew that Kyle Allen or Will Grier wasn't about to run the football. But, dude, if that's Cam Newton, it just adds such another element to our offense if Cam is able to run the football and throw effectively and having a weapon like Christian McCaffrey. I'm telling you, man, it would be a travesty to the NFL if we never get to see a healthy Cam Newton with Christian McCaffrey on the field at the same time, using him to effectiveness, both of them being, capable of playing their best, hitting Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore on these deep ball plays that are just non-existent in our offense. I'm telling you, we have an opportunity to be a dynamic offense, an incredibly dynamic offense. But, the offensive coaches have held us back tremendously. And not having Cameron Jarrell Newton is a problem. And Tony Dunn, you and I said it so many times. If we don't have Cam Newton, we're dead on arrival. And Kyle Allen made us think that maybe we were wrong about that for a little while. But then we had to remind ourselves, oh, you know what? Me and Tony and Cody, CK, we do this show for a reason. Because we know what the hell we're talking about. And without Cam Newton, this is a lifeless Carolina Panther football team.
It's an empty, well, I wouldn't say empty stadium, but the games that we went to that wasn't the fan appreciation game, and it was the Falcons and the Seahawks game. There was no energy in that entire stadium. Not one lick of energy the entire time. Cam Newton walks out of that field, out of that tunnel with his hand pointing to the sky with that smoke and that fire around him. It gives you, those goosebumps, man, that you can't help but be optimistic about the outcome of that game. We haven't seen that in such a long time. It's so tough.
I want to close the show. I want to give you a couple of numbers to think about before Thursday. Right now it says on overthecap.com, which is my favorite way to keep up with player contracts and the cap space. It says we currently have $11.5 million in cap space If we cut Mario Addison, you can save $6 million. If you cut Poe, you could save an additional $4 million. So say you somehow say we're at $30 million in cap money. Are we in a position to where with Cam Newton coming back, this could be fixed quickly? Or is this something, and this is kind of me trying to dovetail this with Michael Jones' comment, how long before we challenge for an NFC South title again? Is this the Packers, they brought in a new coach, and their defense all of a sudden is good, and they didn't skip a beat, and they had a big or a dramatic change or significant change. Do you guys see us quickly doing this, putting it together, or are we in here? Is the the couch need to be open for a while?
I kind of think it needs to be open for a while. I don't know, man. But then again, maybe not. If you look at what I've continued to say, I mean, there is talent on this football team, and I think that it's entirely possible too that this team knows they're not playing for anything. So. You never want to say that players gave up, but this is an unmotivated, demoralized football team. So go home, go into the offseason, lick your wounds, heal up, eat a bunch of food, make love to your wives, be with your family, get healthy, get your mind right, and let's come back to this Carolina Panthers team and kick some ass. Because we do have the talent to be able to do it.
This actually just I clicked over to 2020. On Over the Cap, and it says we have $34 million in cap space, and we can, if we cut Dontari Poe, that's going to take off $10 million.
Yeah.
Greg Olson, if he came up, buy Dontari Poe, exactly, buy Dontari Poe, as Greg Olson is a $8 million cap savings.
Yeah. He's definitely. I don't see a situation where Greg comes back next year for the Panthers.
If we cut Mike Davis, we get $3 million in cap savings. See you, Mike Davis.
Who is Mike Davis?
That's that running back that played like 2 snaps.
Later, bro.
See ya. Oh man, what if you think
how much money does he save?
Well, because he would have to have a new contract. He's probably on a 1 year. It's like it says $3 million. It says if we cut Jarris Wright, we would save $3 million. If we cut Mike Davis, we would save $3 million. If we cut, these are some big numbers. Could we be a team that finally has some money? Yeah. I don't know. And what we do? I mean, is that maybe we're not as far away as we think if we could make some good moves.
And also, imagine this scenario. Imagine we have some money to spend, and we go into this draft, and we're sitting with a top 10 pick,
and we slay
it. Unless either that or unless we're absolutely in love with someone, trade back. Get some more picks.
Yeah.
Build up your roster. Build a football team.
Build a wall.
Dude, I'm telling you, let's say we're picking top 7. Okay, now this would be an astronomical haul, but that's what I'm talking about it. If we're sitting at number 7 and some team in the 20s wants to trade up, dude, that would have to be a ridiculous amount of draft picks going into an uncertain future of Cam Newton with his contract. Knowing that a bunch of good quarterbacks are coming out next year, knowing that you have a bunch of holes on the team, on your offensive line and your defensive line that you need to fix and fill. I just hope that we have a general manager that understands how to play the draft this year and actually do it correct and build a football team. Because if I'd
also like to see us maybe some of our 3rd or 4th round picks pan out, man. Wouldn't it be great if Marquise Haynes and Christian Miller or somebody, just anybody, in that back end actually turned out to be a damn player?
Out there.
Somebody.
Christian Miller is kind of turn it on. I think Christian Miller can be a good player. But no, you're right, 100%. We need to hit on. We need to have a draft where we have like 7 or 8 picks, and we hit on every single one of them.
Well, yeah, or 3. I'll take that.
Hey, dream big, Tony. Let's go 4.
Hey, yeah. I mean, go for it. Right now, I just want to know if any of these players that we drafted will ever do shit. You know what I'm saying? And or they, I mean, like if you think about it, we've talked about this ad nauseum about how those back end picks, we just haven't done well at all in them. We need a guy from the 4th round. When you come back 5 years later, you say, look, that's what some of these teams have. I mean, look, I know it's Tom Brady is the exaggeration there, but you can't build a team of only 1st round picks.
No.
You got to hit some guys that were overlooked, the Michael Thomases, the something like that, and we haven't done it. So, all right, I've got enough of this. We have had a long season. This is the last post-game show. I got to say, I'm pretty I'm sad football's gone. I'm glad this football season is over for the Carolina Panthers. I'm surprised the games were as fun as they were, CK.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you have people there with you that you can enjoy it with and everything, I mean, the Jaguars game was an exception. We were there to witness something that was, the first time that anybody would have ever seen Steve Smith, Jake Delhomme, Wesley Walls, and Jordan Gross inducted into the, Hall of Honor. That was a different type of environment. But outside of that, to be able to be there and actually support a team that is in utter turmoil and collapse, it sucks to see the loss, but it also you feel special because you were there when you didn't have to be, and nobody would have blamed you for leaving, right? We were there, we were a part of it, and I think that's part of why it's so so amazing to go to those things, is because you can say you're one of the few people that that stood by the team in those tough times.
Yeah, I mean, is that like the first caller said, I think it was Theo, is that we've labored through the successes and the failures with this team on the C3 Panthers podcast. We made the trek over and over, and we've supported our team. And now we look forward to a new day to come and maybe some exciting news. And for Thursday's show, I don't know, you might even be talking about Mike McCarthy as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And Cody,
don't you put that curse on me, Ricky Bobby.
Can bring in the new year with that. Oh, no.
I will commit harakiri on this podcast if that's what I got to do. I will take a blade across my stomach and just let my guts spill out for the world to see. Everybody will be able to see it. It'll be my last moments emboldened on the internet. The channel might get blocked forever, but whatever.
Don't fuck with cat shit, dude. Don't fuck with cats. Go watch it. Go watch it. It's so good. All right.
I don't know if my stomach can handle it. By the way, before we go, I just wanted to add one more thing. Brandon Zylstra had 96 yards today.
Nice. Who is he?
Yeah, dude. He has his last name is an erectile dysfunction medication or something. It's like, I don't know. That's how I know him.
All right. It's the C3 Panthers post-game show. Tonight's episode was a special one. Pour one out for your homies. And your homies were the 2019 Carolina Panthers. It was a slow bleed at the end. Thank you, New Orleans Saints, for just coming by and ripping our hearts out at the end and feeding them to us and feasting on them.
I jumped into prison yard, dude. Just thanks and fucking they put pennies in socks and just
like the soap in the sock.
Hey guys, everyone tonight should be 49ers fans. Every single person in the chat who's a Panthers fan.
Tell us what happens. 49ers tonight. Tell us what happens if the 49ers win.
So right now, going into the game, if the Saints won the game against us and either Green Bay or the 49ers lost, they would get a first-round bye. And if both of them lost, they would get the number 1 seed in the NFC, meaning they would get home field advantage throughout. Green Bay won, so they've already got that prevents the Saints from taking the number 2 or the number 1 seed. But now if the 49ers win tonight, it takes away the first round bye for the Saints, and that means that they also don't have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They're going to have to, without barring something crazy happening, they're going to have to go to either
Green Bay or San Francisco.
Yeah, either one of those. If they happen to win the wild card round, which they're going to have fierce competition one way or another, because you have the wild card is either going to be the 49ers or it's going to 49ers, Seahawks, and the Vikings are guaranteed to be wild card. So you've got a really strong set of NFC contenders. So no matter what, without a first round bye, the Saints have a long road to get to the Super Bowl.
All right, go 49ers.
And by the way, can I just say, CK, are you winning your solitaire match?
Yeah, can you tell?
I can see it in your glasses.
Yeah, man. I have to be doing something.
Guys. All right. Well, I'm gonna kill this podcast now. All right.
I thought that was funny. Had to
Dang. Follow the show. We're gonna be here on Thursday night. We're after the New Year's. We're also regularly on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. We don't quit. Longest running Panthers podcast out there. Number 1 Panthers podcast in my mind. And you can follow me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Cody, where can they find you on Twitter?
At Cody Lack, CODYLAC on Twitter. I'll bullshit about whatever you want. You can hit me up. I'll respond to you. I am also the Carolina Panthers analyst for DraftTech.com, and it is the season. So come to the website, listen to my evaluations. Up until now, my column has basically been, team oriented, what the Panthers have done throughout this season. But now all my content is basically going to be focused on the players that the Panthers have the potential to draft, and I put links to those players in those comments, so you'll be able to see what kind of prospects we're talking about the Panthers drafting. And we were bi-weekly, but now coming up here soon, there's going to be a brand new mock draft every single week. I don't know when exactly that starts, but it's coming up here soon. So check us out.
All right, man. And Codizzle Allen, do you have any more? Where are you at? Are you at 120 yet?
Man, I don't even know. To be honest, you'll have to check.
120,000 followers. All right, Code. How can they find you on Twitter?
At Codizzle Allen. That's pretty much across all social media. That's also on PlayStation and Xbox. Just hit me up, follow me. If somebody says something dumb, I try to make them feel dumber. As you may have seen on Twitter with all these stupid people commenting on how the Panthers have fixed the Walter Payton Man of the Year Twitter mentions.
Yes.
Just been roasting some fellas.
Them. We fixed them. We've been retweeting like asses.
Yeah. Dude, then somebody said half of North Carolina is illiterate. And I'm like, well, not in North Carolina, but I see you like to generalize. What other stereotypes do you like to perpetrate?
Yes.
But so
I saw that. I saw
Y'all
that.
just want, you know what you got to say is you're just rooting for a white guy named Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah. That's what I said. You clearly have your prejudices, and that's what caused them to call me illiterate. So.
All right. Okay. We'll hear Thursday night, guys. Thanks for all the support in the chat room. Don't forget to smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the show, and check us out on Thursday night. We'll see you then, guys. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy 2020. Let's end this decade already.